begin.
WWRQ Valdosta. Online at myrock108.com.
Through a computer network called Internet.
This is Rock 108. You're listening to the David Dean Coaches Show.
103! 1, 2, 3!
On Rock 108.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the David Dean Coaches Show, live from Austin's Cattle Company. Thanks to our title sponsors, Southeastern Federal Credit Union, Peaceway Counseling and Mediation, KFC, Budweiser, Griner Nissan, Girardin Jewelers, Blanton and Griffin, Valdosta Lighting, Smitty's Package Store, and Georgia Print Co. Let's give it up for our VSU Pep Band. Come on, let's give it up for them. And right now, let's take it over to the main dais with head coach David Dean and David Schmidt.
Coach, very big week this week for VSU Athletics. And before we get too deep into the wonderful weekend that we had on the football field, just a comment or two about your new Fieldhouse mates. They kicked off their soccer, first time ever women's soccer at Valdosta State. They shared the Fieldhouse with you there. 6-0 win on Thursday to start it off, and today they won 4-1 against Queens College. So some of that championship action rubbing off on them already.
That's right. They had a great game today. I happened to walk out there for a little bit, and they were winning 1-0. And when I walked out there, Queens College tied the game 1-1. So I decided I was bringing them bad luck, and I walked back in. And when I did, it was about 18 or so minutes left in the game, and somebody came back in and told me that they won 4-1. So they scored 3 goals in the last 18 minutes of the game to win. So really excited for Coach Hines and the women's soccer program. They're off to a great start, 2-0 start, and hopefully they can continue the winning ways.
All right, Coach, what a weekend for football, for Blazer football. I know a lot of big-time schools, they start the season off against, lesser teams, and they like to beat up on everybody. You kind of take a different route in the fact that you played some really tough competition, a ranked team, a team based on which poll you were looking at, a team that was ranked higher than you in the preseason poll. And, boy, what a game it was. That has to be, for those of you that did not hear, but I'm sure you've heard, 34-28 win in double overtime. A game like that, when you survive it, and, of course, when you win it, you don't know that going in, that has to be a much better way to start a year than to whoop up on a lesser team that really isn't giving you a chance to gauge your players.
Well, it really does. It gives you an opportunity to see how your guys are going to handle some adversity, handle themselves in close ball games. Obviously, that was a little bit closer than we wanted to have it, but you couldn't ask for a better script. Falling down 14-0 early in the second quarter and being able to fight back and eventually tie the ball game, lose the lead, tie the ball game again, and then go into overtime and be able to score in both of your overtime possessions and hold them and actually block a field goal attempt that allowed us to score the touchdown to win in the second overtime. You really got a good feel of how your kids are going to react. And the great thing about being on the sideline in that ball game was our kids never panicked. When they were down 14-0, you could look at them and tell, you could look in the coach's eyes and tell nobody was in a real panic state. It was just, we just got to start playing, and that's eventually what we did. We put together a great drive right after they went up 14-0, and from that point, I think we gained a little bit of confidence. And but just awfully proud of our guys for just continuing to play hard. And, we took a lot of snaps in that ball game offensively and defensively. Both teams were running no huddle and taking a lot of snaps. And it was a very, very hot day. And I thought both teams were in excellent condition. Both of them fought all the way to the end. And that was one of those games that if it was on ESPN, it would be one of those instant classics because it had to be one of the most exciting games that you had a chance to watch.
It was like a heavyweight fight, a title fight that you see where it was, someone came out to a quick lead but didn't knock them down.
Right.
You stayed in, you went toe-to-toe, you got back to even, and then just started exchanging punches after that. And one team, such a hard-fought game last year, and came down to the last minute with a field goal, last seconds with a field goal. Of course, they had revenge on their mind, which can only motivate you so far. But to go in their house and win that game when they had that circled on their calendar all summer, all winter long, well, all summer, all spring, that really, had to give some extra appreciation to what you guys did.
Well, it really did. We knew that they were going to come out and they were going to give us everything they had. They had a veteran football team. A lot of those guys remembered that game last year. And they basically did the same thing we did. We were up on them, I think 13-0 last year. They fought back. In the last minute of the game, they tied it up, went for a 2-point conversion to tie the ball game. And we were able to get a great kickoff return with Matt Pierce, throw a ball to Ronnie Nelson that got us into field goal range, and then we kick a field goal as time expires. And, when you lose a ball game like that, it always hurts. And I know from the fact of being in it, when you lose to somebody the year before, the next year you want to take that revenge out, and you circle that date. And with it being the first ball game and being at home and a ranked opponent coming into your house, that was a game that I know that they sold out and did everything they could to win, as we did also. So it was very satisfying to beat them. They're a good football team. If there's a better team in the South Atlantic Conference, I'd like to see it. They really are good. And we play another one this week in Newberry. They lost their first game, so you can't say that they're probably in Wingate's league right now. But, boy, what a great football team they have. That's a great quarterback. They got 2 great wide receivers, 2 good running backs. That offensive line was really good. I was very impressed with them. They were a lot better than I thought they were. We've got a pretty decent pass rush, and we couldn't get near him until late in the ball game. And, they're a good football team, and they're going to make a lot of noise throughout the season. And I told several of their players after the game, I said, y'all keep your heads up, keep winning, because you're probably going to get another shot at us somewhere down the road if we both take care of business.
So what was it like in the locker room afterwards? I know you want to be able to celebrate a win, especially for a young team. Some of these guys are really kind of getting their first action. So they have to be excited, but at the same time you have to temper that with it being one game, and
right.
Especially when you have to turn around and play one so quickly.
Sure. Well, and the other thing was our guys were exhausted. It was very hot. It was a very demanding game. It was a physical football game. And the locker room was hot on top of all that. So they were very excited, when we came in together and talked about the game and, touched on some things. Of course, they were very excited. But then when we broke it down and we all went to go get dressed, I mean, you could tell the mood was put now toward Newberry. And that's a sign of a team that kind of understand what's going on, and that's good to see. Our coaches are doing a good job of preparing our kids and getting them focused for the next opponent. And, there wasn't a whole lot of talk about the game on the way home. They were excited about the win, but they were kind of gearing up now for the next opponent. And, again, doing it, having to turn around and play on a Thursday night after your first ball game after a long road trip is tough, and I think our guys understood that.
We'll break it down in more detail as we go through the show, but kind of quick and first impressions. What stood out for you? Maybe things that you weren't quite expecting. You got your team to be able to pull off. What did they do a lot better or somewhat better than you thought they would? That really kind of surprised you. I have to guess that the offensive line was definitely something that really got a gold star.
Yeah, there's no question. Our offensive line really played well. They opened up a lot of holes. We did not give up a sack the entire game. I think we threw the ball 32 times and did not give up a sack, and rushed for 270-something yards. Only had 7 yards lost in the game. And if you think about that, I think 4 of those were on a fumble that we had that Theseus Jackson actually had a 2-yard gain and the ball rolled backwards for. So you take that away and really only lost about 3 yards. Rushing the football. So that was good. I think Theseus Jackson, the way that he played, was really impressive. He broke a lot of tackles. He was a spark for us. David Bailey was playing very well, but when he was getting into the secondary, he wasn't making the safeties miss. And Theseus came in and he was able to do that. And that's why we started to get those long runs. And, it was it's one of those deals where a guy's carrying a hot hand. Theseus was playing very well, and that was the spark that we needed in that ball game. I thought for the most part our wide receivers blocked very well. A lot of those long runs, we were locked up with them making good blocks. We only had one drop in the entire game, and that was really the easiest catch that we had all night. Shontavious Jones had a drop on a quick hitch. Defensively, I thought that we still did not tackle as good as I wanted to. We missed some tackles. We let them get some yardage after an initial hit, which we haven't been doing in the past. And I think that our pass rush needs to get a little bit better, but I think a lot of that had to do with how good their Wingate's offensive line was. But I thought our secondary played excellent football. They did get a lot of yardage, and we knew that because Cody Hafley's a great quarterback. He has great receivers, a great cast around him, and we knew that they were going to get a lot of yardage. But when it came down to making plays in the red zone, Alex Webster had 2 knockdowns and an interception in the red zone. Chris Pope had a knockdown in the red zone. Jeremy Grable had one. We really played very well in the secondary and linebacker in the pass when we got into the red zone, and that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to play well in that position. And then, of course, Jack Fulford's a true weapon for us. He averaged over 43 yards and had 3 kicks that went inside the 20-yard line. And I thought Daniel Anderson kicked the ball very well, kicked off very well. He kicked, although they had the one field goal that was blocked, it was not his fault. It was a protection deal. Those are probably the things that I see standing out. The one real disappointment was the long punt return that they had that gave them an opportunity to win that ball game. That's just something that we cannot allow to have happen. And it was just a breakdown in our coverage. We did not have a guy that squeezed to the ball. We did not maintain lane discipline. And a good kick returner is going to make you pay for that, and that's exactly what he did.
And it seemed like it was a game of progression. And, first game like that we mentioned last week, that scouting reports only go so far because you're not really knowing what they have at that time based on what they had last year. And you could see it seemed like your team was definitely adjusting to the adjustments that you were making because, again, the pass rush was getting to them in the second half. The interception came late. And, as a matter of fact, prevented a chance for them to kick a field goal to possibly win.
Yeah, that was after the long punt return.
Right. So it seemed, and they were getting a lot of third down conversions early on. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like as the game went on, that started getting away from them. So you could really tell, just from a standpoint of watching it, that they really seemed to be catching on to what needed to be done as it was developing.
Well, the first quarter was really frustrating for us. I think our defense played 43 snaps in the first quarter alone. And you put that in perspective, they had about 49 snaps last year against North Alabama in the entire game. And this year, in the first quarter, they had almost 43 snaps, where we had 9. We did not get a first down in the first quarter. And, it wasn't that Wingate was playing that good. We just didn't execute. We threw a screen pass on one of our series and got 9 yards, and then we missed a block, and they tackled us for a 2-yard loss. And then we felt like we could throw the ball up top deep, and we threw a long pass that was not thrown in the proper place, and it was an incomplete pass. So we were in positions to make plays, and we just weren't doing it. And then we finally started putting some things together in the second quarter, and we got over 20 first downs throughout the game because we didn't get a first down in overtime. Both of our drives were touchdowns without first downs. So, you're looking at us getting 20 first downs really in a 3-quarter period and rushing for almost 200 and something yards in basically 3 quarters. You take that first quarter out, and I think our defense is playing differently because they're not on the field so long. But offensively, we've got to be more productive early in the ballgame.
You're talking about the time of possession. VSU had the ball for less than 4 minutes in that first quarter. Wingate over 11 minutes, obviously, if you do the math. But then it really evened out at that. Matter of fact, so much to the point that in the third quarter, you guys were 10 seconds off from having it exactly the same amount of time. And then they had a little bit of a favor in the fourth quarter. But, again, you had the big plays and the interception that stopped the drive at that point.
Right.
So, again, you could really kind of see the adjustments. What else? Austin Roberts, you didn't name a quarterback until late. Austin, was the guy that you went to. He brings about some veteran leadership. He brings about a knowledge of the offense and everything. And he really kind of stood in there and took some early lumps, but it didn't stop him from continuing on the game.
And we had a lot of confidence in Austin Roberts. That's why we named him the starter. Our players had a lot of confidence in Austin Roberts. And it was never an issue that we came over to the sideline and said, should we put in Caden? Should we put in Brett Whitmire? Our players never said that. And you could look at Austin. There was no panic in his eyes. He just knew that, on that long pass, if I throw the ball more to the middle of the field, I'll probably throw a touchdown pass. And I did not throw it where I needed to go. I threw a couple of bubble screens out in front of the receivers instead of hitting them right on line. And, so it was just a combination of a lot of different things that weren't going right. And then, like I said, when Theseus Jackson came in and broke that first long run, that was probably the thing that kick-started us. That gave us some confidence, and everybody kind of kicked it into a little bit different gear at that point, and we started playing totally different on both sides of the ball at that point.
All right, Coach, we got plenty more to talk about the big win against Wingate. At Wingate, a 34-28 double overtime win for Valdosta State to start the season 1-0. When we come back, we'll take a look more at the game.
We'll be back with more from the David Dean Coaches Show live at Austin's Cattle Company. Thank you again to all of our sponsors: Southeastern Federal Credit Union, Peaceway Counseling and Mediation, KFC, Budweiser, Griner Nissan, Girard & Jewelers, Blanton & Griffin, Valdosta Lighting, Smitty's Package Store, and Georgia Print Co. We'll be right back here on Rock 108.
Listen up. It's the David Dean Coaches Show on Rock 108.
Welcome back to the David Dean Coaches Show live from Austin's Cattle Company. Thank you again to our title sponsor, Southeastern Federal Credit Union. Also, thank you to Peaceway Counseling and Mediation, KFC, Budweiser, Griner Nissan, Girard & Jewelers, Blanton & Griffin, Valdosta Lighting, Smitty's Package Store, and Georgia Print Co. Let's take it back to the main stage with head coach David Dean and David Schmidt.
All right, Coach, we ended it talking about Austin Roberts and the leadership that he provided, and you mentioned that, there was no panic in his eyes or no panic with him at all in his actions, and showed that leadership. For that and for the incredible 20-yard touchdown run that won the game, Austin was named the Gulf South Conference Offensive Player of the Week. He ended with 19 of 33, 180 yards, 2 touchdown passes, and then probably more incredible, showed his athleticism and showed his decision-making. 10 rushes for 90 yards. He did have a 2-yard loss, so he ended up with 88 net yards, but still an all-around great performance. And like I said, when you look at those rushing yards, people need to understand that that's based on whether or not he should be giving up the ball. So before he even runs, he has to decide what the best option is. Well,
one of the things that obviously Wingate was trying to do was force Austin Roberts to win the game. Obviously their game plan was to try to make him lose or win for us, and he was up to the challenge. He played very well. He did a great job of reading. And I'll tell you a little bit about the poise of him. A lot of people won't know this unless they were part of the game. But the touchdown in the first overtime, we called a play that he was actually supposed to read to the left. We were 2 by 2, and when the ball was snapped, he looked to the right, and he saw the 2 receivers running the route of a backside route, and he immediately realized, I looked to the wrong side. So what he did was he backed up a little bit, gave himself a little bit of time to let those guys work open, worked outside the pocket, and then threw the touchdown pass. That right there is enough to say that guy has a lot of knowledge in what we're trying to do to immediately recognize, I read the wrong side. I better get back over here to the proper side. And that's exactly what he did. And, our offensive line, because they had such great protection, they brought a blitz on that. They were in true man coverage. They brought a blitz. David Bailey stepped up and hit their linebacker right up underneath the chin, gave him an opportunity to have that extra time. And, that was a play that probably in the past, if you don't have a quarterback that's veteran, has been in your system and understands what you're doing, that's probably a lost play right there, and you're kicking a field goal. But he kept his poise and made a great throw. And unfortunately, if he reads the correct side, he makes a throw on the post for a touchdown to Shontavious Jones, because he and Trey Herndon both ran an excellent route. Both the guys chased Trey Herndon to the corner, and Shontavious Jones was running the post for a touchdown. And it would have looked a whole lot better if he'd have thrown it that way. But, he actually was throwing the ball to Shontavious late, and Trey Herndon came up there and made the catch in double coverage for the touchdown. So that just tells you a little bit about what he brings to the table for us as far as leadership and knowledge of what we're trying to get done.
And then his first touchdown pass, a nice, down the sideline, and Quinn Robertson made a really good catch. I mean, he basically had all his fingers involved in that one. I mean, I don't think it could have been another 2 centimeters away.
No, he couldn't. And I'll tell you another funny story about that. And it got full of funny stories, I guess, when you win. But the play right before that, Theseus Jackson broke about a 50 or 60-yard touchdown run. And I was looking at the corner close to our sideline. And when Theseus broke, I watched that guy to see how fast he was, because I wanted to see if he could run Theseus down or come close. So I happened to watch him all the way across the field. And after the play was over, Quinn Robertson came back to the sideline, and he said, "Coach, throw me a deep ball." So I said, "Well, that's a heck of an idea, because I just saw that guy sprint all the way across the field." So I said, "All right, we're going to do it." So I told Austin, I said, "Think Z, and let's throw a deep ball." And that's exactly what he did. And Quinn just ran right by him. So there's a guy that's new to our system also. And, as a coach, you can't take all the credit. You got to listen to your players sometime. And that was a heck of an idea by him. And it was just fate. Everything kind of fell in place, because I just happened to watch the guy run all the way across the field. And I said, I bet he's tired now. That's a good idea. Let's try and throw one over the top. And that's exactly what we did.
And I think that's, the other part of football, the inside of football, is that, every play, you would love to score on every play, but every play is not designed to be, a game breaker, but it gives you information.
Sure.
And especially in a first game like that, where you had to feel them out. You really don't have a lot of scouting report to go on, and so that's kind of a way to, in-game, test the limits and see what happens.
You do. You have to. It's like a heavyweight fight. You're going to come in, and you can't throw haymakers from the get-go. You got to throw some punches and counter punches and stick and move and rope-a-dope a little bit and find out, exactly what you can do to be successful. And that's what we did. And we got second quarter, we kind of figured out what we could do and what Wingate's game plan was against us and how we could counteract to be successful against their game plan.
Now, how much hair did you lose in that first overtime alone? That's when you were on defense. Their possession had to be one of the most schizophrenic possessions I've ever seen in overtime that ended up succeeding for them.
It was crazy. I don't know how many snaps they took. I think they finally made a first down on a fourth down. Then they had a penalty that backed them up. And on third down, we had a pass interference. And then they finally scored on fourth down. So we probably took over 12 snaps in one overtime period and then had to turn around and go right back out there again. It was crazy, and the whole day was like that. Our guys, there were several times in that ball game that our guys could have said, it's just not our day. We had 2 touchdowns that were called back to penalties. We ended up scoring on that same drive. Virtually every big gain we had, big return we had, was called back for some type of penalty. They hit us for a 95-yard touchdown pass to go up 14-0. I mean, our kids had several opportunities just to say, it's not our day, but they just refused to lose that ball game. And that says a lot for those kids and the way that they approached that football game and represented, our football program in Valdosta State University and this whole town. It was just, if you were part of those guys and seeing their eyes and seeing them react and their whole deal, you'd be awfully proud of them.
Now, again, some of us were able to watch it on the Wingate had a stream, so they actually had the cameras, no commercials. So they had the cameras going on, and they did show the coin toss going into overtime to see who got to choose whether they wanted to be on offense or defense. Valdosta State, being the away team, they got to call the coin toss. Now, I noticed that you were out there at midfield, but then I also noticed that you made sure that Harrison was the one that made the coin call so that, you kind of absolved yourself.
Yeah.
It's like we got, okay, let's call the coin, and then you pointed. Your call.
50-50, I'm not very good. I turn it over to somebody else. If I ever have a true-false test, you might as well just give me an F because I'm going to fail it.
Now, is that traditional that the coaches go out at halftime?
That's the first time I'd ever heard of that.
Oh, they brought you? The referees brought you?
They made the two coaches come out.
I don't remember seeing that before either.
Yeah, I think that was of course, there was a lot of new things that were happening in that ball game, but I had never been a part of that. But I'm glad, because you kind of get right in the middle of the action and make sure that you get what you want.
And they explained the timeout ordeal and all the other stuff. When it comes to second overtime, you guys were able to stop them. 4 plays, they went for the field goal, did not convert. That gives you the ball knowing that all you have to do is score anything. Now, the first play was the handoff for 5 yards.
Right.
How far do you go with that before you go ahead and take the field goal if, you don't get the 20-yard run? I mean, would you have kicked it on third down? Would you wait until fourth down?
We were going to go to fourth down. We were going to try to get as close as we could. We felt like we could get a first down just by the way we were running the football and our offensive line was playing. So we were going to take it as close as we could. But, it's funny. The second down, when we called the play, it was a read play for Austin. And, of course, he obviously made a great read. We had great blocks by our line and great blocks by our wide receivers and a great fake by Theseus coming around the edge. But right before the ball was snapped, I hollered down to Daniel Anderson to find out which hash he wanted the ball on third down, and we were going to run it towards that hash so he could kick the field goal, or if he wanted it in the middle. And as soon as I hollered down there, Austin broke, and Robbie Brown, our quarterback coach, was sitting up in the thing, and he said, "Coach, you don't need to. He scored." And you could see him break through and go. So, that was an exciting time, and I was awfully proud of Austin because, a lot of people, when we decided to make Austin the quarterback, a lot of people looked at us like, are you sure that's what you want to do? Because you brought in Caden Cochran, he's from Oklahoma, and all this. Well, like I said, that guy proved, he's a great football player, and he's a Hidsey football player. Now, he's not probably not the greatest quarterback that's ever played here, and he's not going to be the greatest quarterback that's ever played here, but for our football team and what he brings to us, he brings a special quality and some things that nobody else in our football team can bring to us right now.
But now he did get dinged up in the game late, and then you took him out. I mean, when Cade came in, that was an injury relief situation.
Yeah, that was all that was. He had a cramp that he caught, but he was fine. He went back in after that, but it was good because we were actually able to get Caden in the ball game a little bit. You don't want to put him in on the 1 yard line like we did, but that's kind of the way it all worked out. But Caden made a great run, got us off the goal line. He did the same thing. He made a great read with Theseus, and Theseus got about 10 yards, got us a first down. And then Caden broke one for about 12 yards. And then Austin was able to go back in. He threw a great out route over there to Quinn Robertson and got us up to the 50-yard line. And with 2 seconds left, we actually had an opportunity to throw the ball into the end zone. So coming off the 1 yard line after that interception by Alex Webster, I thought that was an impressive change of possession for our guys to get the ball off the one because they still had timeouts left, and they could have called timeout and got themselves in a field goal opportunity.
That I was about to bring up the next thing. That was a very aggressive set of downs that late in the game, and I have to say I did sweat one point when he was standing in the end zone on that second down on the snap, the shotgun snap.
Right.
You think, that's you were definitely confident in that center to quarterback exchange on that one.
Well, I would rather him be in the gun than under center on his first snap.
Right.
Because you don't have an opportunity to work a lot of under center type stuff to warm up.
Right.
But for him to be able to go out there and take that shotgun, it was more fluid for him and more natural for him because that's the way he takes most of his snaps in the game.
Yeah, people underestimate. You see a lot of times if a center gets swapped out or if a quarter gets swapped out, that first time they get under center, very often,
sure.
Of course probably not more often than not, but very often that exchange gets fumbled because of the timing is completely different.
And you think about, that's his first snap that he's coming into play. His palms are starting to get a little sweaty too, because he realizes what's at stake and what he's going to do. So For us, we're always going to first snap. We're going to put a guy in a gun and let him get the flow of the game first.
I'm sure you didn't catch the coaching staff off guard, but watching the game, the announcers I think were a little bit off guard when Caden rolled out a little bit. They were, he's left-handed.
Yeah,
it's like he can actually throw with the other arm.
Yeah, we tried to keep that quiet, and not let a whole lot of people filming throwing the football, and take a lot of pictures of him throwing the football. But that was good for us to be able to keep that hidden a little bit. Now, of course, it's open and in the public's eye. But he's going to be a great football player. He's going to make a lot of plays, and we're still going to do the same thing. We're going to put him in the ball game and let him have an opportunity to play and give him some experience.
Other than Austin getting the cramp, any other injuries to report that were significant enough to maybe affect next week?
No, for a physical football game and as many snaps as we took, we really came out very well. We had a lot of guys after the ball game that were getting some IVs just because they played so many snaps, and Coach Hoff did not want those guys on that long bus trip back home cramping in the back of the bus. But, we've had a couple of guys that, have some sore ankles or sore ribs or sore shoulders. But other than that, we should, barring anything that happens in practice this week, we should be having our full slate of guys back out there playing for us again this week.
All right, Coach, then we'll take our second break. Again, we're celebrating our 34-28 double overtime victory on the road against Wingate, and we'll start looking ahead to our first home game Thursday night against Newberry.
We'll be back with more from the David Dean Coaches Show, live from Austin's Cattle Company. Thank you to all of our sponsors: Southeastern Federal Credit Union, KFC, Peaceway Counseling and Mediation, Budweiser, Griner Nissan, Girard & Jewelers, Blanton & Griffin, Valdosta Lighting, Smitty's Package Store, and Georgia Print Co. We'll be back with more right here on Rock 108.
It's Blazer Football Talk.
55 Texas, Z-Hook on one.
On the exclusive home of the David Dean Coaches Show, Rock 108.
Welcome back to the David Dean Coaches Show, live from Austin's Cattle Company. Thank you again to our title sponsors, Southeastern Federal Credit Union. Also thank you to Georgia Print Co., Spinney's Package Store, Valdosta Lighting, Blanton & Griffin Insurance, Girard & Jewelers, Griner Nissan, Budweiser, KFC, and Peaceway Counseling and Mediation. Let's go back to David Dean and David Schmidt.
All right, Coach. Again, a nice job by your offense. Had to come back from 14 down. They didn't panic, and all three of your drives were 80-yard drives. You put together some nice, long, sustained drives where you're able to do a little bit of everything. And it wasn't just they had that one punch, 94-yard, like you mentioned, but you guys worked it down the field 3 times, and the 3 times were successful.
Yeah, that was probably the thing that I was most excited about, because that's something that we did not do last year. We did not sustain drives and finish drives. And when we went into our camp this year and we talked to our offense, we talked about being more productive in the red zone, which we were, I think, 3 of 3 with our overtime. We talked about not turning the ball over. We didn't turn the ball over in the game. Limit our sacks. We did not give up a sack. Finish drives and score after turnovers, and get change of possessions, change of field position after a change of possession. And I think all of those things we did in that ball game, and that was exciting to see our guys do that.
Going back to the offensive line a little bit too, I mean, it's first game like that. You've got a new coach. Usually you're pretty strong in run blocking, and you have to work at it on pass blocking, or you're very strong at pass blocking and have to work on run blocking. Has this been the most complete job that you've seen, at least in the last several seasons, that they did both so well?
I think it is. Just the way that they played. Again, experience helps out. We've got 4 guys that have played 2 years of football for us. And we had a junior college All-American, Ryan Schrader, who came in and played his first game for us, played an outstanding football game in our left tackle position. They played very well. And the good thing is I think they're all good run blockers, and they're all good pass blockers. They're not great on either one, and I think that's what gives us the balance that we need. And I tell you, I can't say enough about Andy Richmond, our offensive line coach. I mean, he's just come in and done an outstanding job with them. You know, we had a good coach before with David Elsenrath, and Andy's just a little bit different personality, different temperament, and the way that he goes about his business with those players is something that they truly respect. I like the way he handles them during the game. I like the way he handles them at practice, and I think they really respect him. And he's brought, obviously, as you can see, he's brought a different dimension to us as far as our run game is concerned with some things that we did in that ball game.
And I can't remember who said it, but someone mentioned about, welcome to Gulf South Conference football, and I guess his statement was, I don't know if I could take this too many times.
That's exactly right. It's he probably was more shocked at the bus ride than anything else. He's used to getting off the plane and having everybody handle his bags for him, and he actually had to carry bags in and check into a hotel room, and it was a little bit different for him coming from Wisconsin to here, but nobody was any more excited after the ball game than he was, and we're very, very, very fortunate to have him here. He's going to do a great job for us.
And I'm sure you're too busy for the coaching fraternity to have some kind of things on the road where you make them do a little bit more work, maybe like you would a rookie or something.
No, we don't do that.
I figured you'll be a little bit too busy for that.
Yeah.
All right, Coach, we had a big win to celebrate, but Valdosta State football also had another big event to kind of celebrate, and that was as of Saturday or Sunday afternoon when the original final cuts went through. Larry Dean made the official 53-man roster for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yes, he did. He did.
Have you talked to him since?
I actually talked to him on the way up to Wingate on the bus ride up there, and he was telling me about the scrimmage that they had, the preseason game that they had. He played every series of that game except for the first series, and he said, Coach, they put me with the radio, and I said, with the radio? And he said, yeah, they put the radio in my helmet. And I said, oh, yeah, is that right? And he was able to call plays. He said the other guy was having trouble making the calls, so they put the radio in my thing. And when he told me that, I said, this guy's going to make the team if they trust him that much to give him the radio. So I did not talk to him after the game. We did find out that he made the squad after the Wingate game. We were on the bus waiting for everybody to get through and load up. And Sean Reed actually gave me the word. It was Andy Sinkfield. Andy Sinkfield, our Georgia State trooper, gave me the word that he made it. And right after that, Joe Cauthen sent me a text message and said he made it, so I knew it was for sure. So I announced it on the offensive bus and got out and walked over and announced it to the defensive bus. And, of course, both the buses just gave out a loud cheer. And we wish him all the best. He's going to do a great job up there. And again, I say there's no better representative of Valdosta State University than Larry Dean.
And just to give everybody an idea of the circumstances that he was fighting from, remember they had the lockout, so he wasn't even signed until July.
Right.
So he had no advanced ability to work out or understand defenses or learn the plays for any particular team. And he was also going to Minnesota, who had drafted a linebacker in the 6th round out of Ohio State.
Right.
So you're talking about one of the premier colleges in the country, and one known for a lot of very good linebackers.
Sure.
And he beat that guy out. And there was actually one of the cuts they made that kind of cleared it for him was a guy that was in the Pro Bowl as a special team player 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So they really kind of showed that they were really impressed with him. And watching that game against the Texans on the NFL Network, it was exciting. I saw that he was the one with his back to the line of scrimmage, and the other 10 guys were scared looking at him. So at that point, too, I knew something was up.
I figured when he told me that, I said, this guy's going to make it. He's going to be there.
Well, I make this prediction today, barring him maintaining his health and kind of looking at some things and seeing what's going on in Minnesota, I will predict that if he stays healthy, Larry Dean will be starting for the Minnesota Vikings at linebacker before the end of November.
I hope so. I hope so.
He's
already starting on all of the special teams and being a big impact on all of their special teams. And boy, it would be great if he could make a lot of plays on those special teams, on kickoffs and punts and different things like that, and end up being in the Pro Bowl. as a special team player.
No, I just got to find out a way to cheer for him and still hate the Vikings. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's hard to pull for that purple.
And not good for a Green Bay Packer owner. I mean, that just doesn't work. It doesn't match. I should be mad at him, but I'm not.
Well, two times out of the year you can't pull for him.
Right. Well, I'll pull for him, but he can have 15 tackles. Just don't hurt anybody and don't win. So other than that, but again, they play in San Diego at 4:15 on Sunday. Just because you're on the 53 doesn't mean you naturally make the game roster, but because he is doing special teams, my guess is he will be on the field when they kick off on that game.
I would find it very hard to believe that they would not let him start in every special team and then not take him when the season started, especially as productive as he has been. And that was one of the things that we talked about on the way up there. I said, now, I know you guys are coming to Atlanta in November. I said, I'm going to be there.
That's right.
Barring we're not in the playoffs, I'm going to be there. And he said, I'll hook you up.
Thanksgiving Sunday, they will be in Atlanta,
That's
Georgia.
Right.
That is right. All right, we're going to take our final break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the game coming up on Thursday night against Newberry.
We'll be back with more from the David Dean Coaches Show, live from Austin's Cattle Company. Thank you to Southeastern Federal Credit Union, Peaceway Counseling and Mediation, KFC, Budweiser, Griner Nissan, Girardin Jewelers, Blanton and Griffin Insurance, Valdosta Lighting, Smitty's Package Store, and Georgia Print Co. We'll be right back on Rock 108.
The David Dean Coaches Show. Find it here every Monday night, all season long, on Rock 108.
Welcome back to the David Dean Coaches Show, live from Austin's Cattle Company. Thank you to our title sponsors, Southeastern Federal Credit Union, Peaceway Counseling and Mediation, KFC, Budweiser, Griner Nissan, Girardin Jewelers, Blanton and Griffin Insurance, Valdosta Lighting, Smitty's Package Store, and Georgia Print Co. Let's take it back to head coach David Dean and David Schmidt.
All right, Coach, we'll talk a little bit about Newberry, and as Ed's working his way over so that we can talk to Wes James, and he can give us a little quick scouting report on what we're facing. My wife will probably want to thank you. I don't know that you really had anything to do with the schedule, but she'll probably want to thank you going into this because the Thursday game prevented her from having to possibly get some really prime tickets for the Packers-Saints game, which happens. Both of those games happen to fall on my birthday, so it would have been like the ultimate birthday present for us to be in Green Bay. But, we have to go with Valdosta State first. So she'll probably thank you for pulling the strings to get that game on a Thursday night. Yeah, well, So, all right, Wes, give us a little idea of what we're going to see with Newberry.
Well, actually, Coach, I spent all afternoon looking at their stats, but what it boils down to, Newberry, a team that is not as good this year as they were last year. Plain and simple, you can look at it. They lost to North Greenville, a team they were 9-0 against. We have a team that is better than we were last year, with the exception maybe of Larry Dean and Stevie Harden, which is two guys that's hard to replace. So here you've got a better VSU football team playing a Newberry team that's not as good as they were last year. We handled them pretty well here. The only question I have tonight, Coach, is how, after such an emotional win against a team that's picked to win the SAC, do you get the Blazers up to play in just 4 days? Get them up emotionally to play a team like Newberry, who is smarting after a loss against a team they shouldn't have lost to, but did, and lost handily to them. How do you get our Blazers up to play on television against Newberry?
Well, fortunately for me, I had eight and a half hours to figure that out on the ride back home. But that is truly a concern. We started back up yesterday as a team. We went in and watched the film, and then we started a little bit on Newberry. We were going to practice last night, and we had a monsoon that came in about the time that we were going to practice. So I thought it was the best interest of our guys not to go out there in the rain and go through that. I didn't want anybody to get sick and, just different things. So I felt having a very physical football game was just better for us to do a lot of mental preparation. So that's what we did. We took a little bit extra time with film on Newberry and kind of introduced some things that they're going to be doing. But that is a key, and that's something that we talked about as a staff. We're going to have to get our kids back down to earth. We're going to have to be very smart in our preparation because, we are beat up. It was a very physical game. We played a lot of snaps on both offense and defense. A lot of guys played almost the entire football game when you include special teams as well. And for us, we can't go into that ball game tired. I know this. Newberry lost the game to North Greenville. They woke up Sunday morning at 7 o'clock and practiced. So that's how upset that coach was at the way that they played. He probably got their attention. I would imagine, and they're going to come down here with a little bit of an attitude that they want to play a lot better than they showed in the North Greenville game. So I expect them to come in here ready to play. Yes, we did handle them pretty well last year with 45-17 or something like that. I'm sure that's sitting in their crawl. I'm not so sure that Newberry wasn't looking past North Greenville, beating them 9 years in a row, to Valdosta State. So I think we're going to get their best. Hopefully we're going to be up to the challenge and not have a letdown. That's us as coaches to get our kids focused. Hopefully the weather's going to cooperate with us and give us an opportunity to practice this week. It's supposed to be poor weather all week. And as a matter of fact, we practice in 31 minutes, so hopefully the weather will hold off here and we're going to be able to get a little bit in tonight.
Coach, tell us a little bit about the pregame setup for the fans. You usually have the Blazer Walk. Is that still going off? Did you change anything about that? What time? What are the rules on, greeting the players?
I don't know.
Okay.
I assume we're still having the Blazer Walk. I have not heard anybody say anything about it from the athletic department. I don't know if anybody from the athletic department's in here or not, but I have not heard anybody say anything about a Blazer Walk this year. So if we do, we'll be there an hour and a half before the game.
So the game starts at 7.
So we'll be there at 5:30. I guess we'll arrive over there and walk through everybody. But if not, we'll show up and we'll start warming up about 5 minutes till 6 and kick off at 7 or 7:04 or 7:05, whatever it is for TV.
Just taking a quick look at the Weather Channel coming up for the rest of the week. Thursday, it is got us for clear skies and a high of 91. So hopefully we'll have a really nice evening, like you said. And it's a great chance to kind of get all the students out because you have a game where they haven't gone home for the weekend. It's a Thursday night game, so really a great chance, especially all the freshmen that haven't had a chance to check out the Blazers. But everybody, really a chance to get out, walk across the street, and take in the game.
Well, our home opener has always traditionally been a big crowd. I guess everybody's ready to come out and watch a little bit of college football, so that's always a big crowd. Our Thursday night games are always big crowds, so hopefully we'll have a nice crowd that'll be out there with a home opener and a Thursday night, the combination of the two. The one thing that we got to do is we've got to play better on Thursday night. We have traditionally not played very well. We've won some games on Thursday night, but we've won them ugly. We've lost some close ball games on Thursday night. We've got to play better. We're sitting in a position right now that we can go 2-0 versus the South Atlantic Conference, which would be huge for the Gulf South Conference in the playoff implications. I got several text messages from coaches from other universities in the Gulf South Conference that said, congratulations, great win for the Gulf South Conference and so on. So that kind of tells you, what kind of happens with all of those different things as far as the implications of playoffs when the Gulf South Conference and the South Atlantic Conference and the Gulf South Conference versus the Southern Independent Athletic Conference when you start talking about playoffs later in the year.
All right, Coach, well, that put the end to this one. Again, a big celebration, 34-28 win, 7 o'clock Thursday night. Remember, this is a Thursday night game, not a Sunday night game against Newberry. Come on out, cheer them on to their second win, a big home opener at Blazemore Hyder Stadium.
Thank you for listening to the David Dean Coaches Show live from Austin's Cattle Company. Thank you to all of our sponsors, our title sponsor, Southeastern Federal Credit Union. Also, thank you to Peaceway Counseling and Mediation, KFC, Budweiser, Griner Nissan, Girardin Jewelers, Blanton & Griffin Insurance, Valdosta Lighting, Smitty's Package Store, and Georgia Print Co. A podcast edition of tonight's show will be available at valdostoday.com and myrock108.com. Thank you again for listening to the David Dean Coaches Show live on Rock 108.